Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, John McAdams here, and you are listening to episode 261 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. I just made it home from an outstanding hunt in South Africa with two podcast listeners. Now, today's episode is a short campfire-style discussion of the highlights of the hunt from the two guys who joined me, plus two of our three PHs. We did hunt for one more morning after we recorded this podcast, but this was our last night in Africa, and that's why we recorded this episode then. Now, I will record a more detailed recap of the hunt that you will receive in a few days, but I wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible because I know a lot of listeners have been very excited to hear how things went for us in Africa. Similar to episodes 220 and 238 that I recorded from the lodge up in Colorado on my pronghorn and bison hunt, and from Abilene during our podcast crane hunt, we recorded this episode using a portable audio recorder. So it's not going to be up to my normal standards, and I do apologize in advance for distortions, echoes, background noise, etc. For instance, in this particular episode, we had a little dog in camp who acts as a guard dog. She's very friendly to humans, but she has no toleration at all for animals like snakes, monkeys, hyenas, etc. coming into camp, especially at night. Well, she didn't like the sound or smell of something creeping around the lodge that evening, and she was doing the best to scare it off, and you'll hear her do that at several points during this episode. All told, even so, I think this was a great episode, and it provides a good taste of what things were like over for us in Africa, and a good perspective from the viewpoint of two hunters who were on their first trip over to Africa in terms of their apprehensions about initially booking a hunt, dealing with the logistics of getting to Africa with all of your hunting gear to include some rifles, and the ups and downs that go with a hunt in Africa. Now, like I mentioned previously, I decided over a year ago that I wanted to organize a hunt with some podcast listeners. I initially planned two hunts and announced them both in the summer of 2022, a sandhill crane hunt that we did back in January of 2023, and this hunt in Africa. The crane hunt was awesome, and as great as that hunt was, and it was great, I think this hunt in Africa was even more incredible. Once again, we got a great group of guys together, and we had a heck of a hunt. And for that reason, I'm also putting together a professional quality video of this hunt to document things, and I will release that video once we get it fully edited. Hopefully, I'll be able to release that in conjunction with the more detailed recap I do of the hunt in, I guess, probably next week or so when I'm able to do that. But we'll just have to see about that. It's a big project. I want to make sure it's done right. So I will delay it a little bit if necessary to ensure that we put a really good quality product out there for you guys. So you got those things to look forward to as well with that next podcast about the hunt and that upcoming video. Okay, let's go straight to Limpopo Province for a taste of how things went on our very first podcast Africa safari hunt. Okay, hello, this is John McAdams, and we are bringing you a special episode of the Big Game Hunting Podcast from camp in Africa as we wrap up our first ever Africa Big Game Hunting Podcast hunting tour here. I'm sitting down with a couple great guys here near the end of a great hunt. We're almost done. We got maybe a tiny bit more hunting left tomorrow. The meat of the hunt is behind us, though, and tonight's our last night, everybody here in camp together. So we're going to sit around, talk about the hunt, some of the things we learned, some of the things that we may have wished we'd done differently in our preparation or whatever. But before we do that, I'll just pass it around, and we'll have everybody that's here introduce themselves to it. And we've got a couple of the people from the outfitter, as well as a couple of podcast listeners. So just introduce yourself briefly, tell us very briefly about yourself, and pass it on to the next guy.
Thank you, John. Johan Seifert, partner to Kobus Kok from Kok and Seifert Big Game Hunting, where the outfitters you guys came and visited. Me and Koos started our business 15 years ago. We teamed up with you 10 years ago, and you made this possible for all of us. I've been hunting with Kobus, like I said, for 15 years. Kobus has been hunting his entire life. And we were really happy to host you guys over here. I hope everybody had a good time, and we've got some converts to African hunting.
Thank you, Johan. Thank you, John. Hello. I am Christian van der Westhuizen. I've been hunting with Johan and Kobus for the last 5 years. I'm a small farm boy from the Free State. Never in my life thought I would be buffalo hunting with you guys in the future. But yeah, here we are. And it was an excellent week that we had. We shot a few nice animals. And it's been a splendid time.
Hi, John. Thank you for having us. I'm Fernando from Mexico. I've been fishing and hunting since I'm 12, and now I'm 52. And it was my dream to come to an Africa hunt all my life. And now I found that dream come true, and we had a splendid trip with lots of game, and the quality of game is to be remarkable. Thank you for having us, and we'll keep talking about this hunt after we introduce everybody. Thank you, John. Thank you, Cock and Seyfried.
Yeah, so I'm Mike. I came from Canada. I've been hunting most of my life, but early on just mostly migratory birds and upland game. So I've only been doing big game hunting for maybe the last 6-7 years. And first time in Africa. This has been a real dream of mine to come to Africa, and it has met and exceeded all my expectations, and obviously we'll get into that some more, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, so, as you probably noticed, we had one listener from Mexico, one listener from Canada here. I'm from the United States, so between the three of us, we had all the countries in North America represented. We had one more gentleman that was supposed to join us, but had some difficulties with his job that prevented him from making it over, and so that was a real disappointment. We wished he would have been here, but that's too bad. But that's also just kind of how it goes sometimes. Life gets in the way. But in any case, we'll talk a little bit more in detail here with Mike and Fernando, and then we'll talk more with Christian and Johan. But you guys had clearly wanted to hunt Africa previously, had never done it before until this opportunity came here. And I'm glad that I was able to play some small part in making this dream come true for you guys. Like we talked about, like I talk about in the podcast too, one of the main goals of the podcast is to help hunters make their dreams come true, whatever those dreams are. For some people, those dreams are elk hunting or sheep hunting or even just getting into hunting, learning how to hunt deer, something like that. In your case, and in this particular case, it was hunting Africa. Can you talk to us maybe a little bit about what it was that intrigued you about hunting in Africa, and what it was that made you want to pull the trigger on going now on this hunt with us here as we're here? Michael, I guess we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. So I think what intrigued me about wanting to come to Africa is, so my dad actually lived in Africa for over 2 years in the late 1960s, when he was in his early 20s, and just loved the people, loved the country. He passed away about 10 years ago. He never had a chance to come back, unfortunately. And so it's been a bit of a dream of mine to come back to Africa in some way, and I guess coming to hunt kind of fit that niche really well. I was nervous about taking that step. I've never hunted outside of, actually out of Canada up to this point. And so it's a big step. I was worried about the logistics. I was worried about trying to find the right outfitter. I'll be honest, I don't have any close friends that have gone to Africa, close hunting friends that could give me some advice. I have done some other guided hunts, but again, I had some insight from others who had done it. And so I felt comfortable doing that. I think what made me pull the trigger, a couple of things, is I had some good advice from a few friends of mine that said, if you have a dream to do something like that, don't wait. Like, I've come across so many people that waited, and then health issues or other things just prevented them from, say, fulfilling that dream. And they said, if you can make the effort, go while you're young if you can, or whatever age that is to you, but make that possible. Don't put it off, because you never know what happens. So that was the first thing that motivated me to do it. And then really, John, I was listening to your podcast. I've been listening to your podcast for at least 1.5 years, 2 years, and it was a year ago around this time. You offered a hunt to 3 individuals that wanted to go, and I think what really sealed it is you said you were going yourself, And so I thought, well, if John's going, I'd trust, just listening to your podcast, so much useful information. I just came to trust your advice, and I thought, well, he's going to make sure that this goes well. And so I felt comfortable, and I thought, I'm not going to wait. Again, because of that previous advice, I'm just going to do it. And so I thought, I'm just going to pull the trigger, go right ahead. And I'd heard so many wonderful things about hunting in Africa, in regard to the opportunities you have, the different variety of game, and how much hunting experience you can have in that week to 10 days compared to other hunts you do in other places. Like, you have so much more opportunities to take game, harvest trophies over that short period of time than you do anywhere else. Your hunting experience level, I think, just grows leaps and bounds. It can. And so that was a motivation to me as well. But really, it was just you offering these hunts and just trusting you with that, and that was good enough for me. And it's been an amazing experience, more than I expected or dreamed of.
Well, what was your first impression kind of coming to Africa? Giant pain in the rear to get here, as always, but once you got here...
Yeah, and I knew the flight was going to be long, but actually that wasn't that bad. I was fortunate. I just had one layover in Amsterdam, and so that wasn't too bad. I was a little bit worried about navigating, some of the airports and things, and then making sure the outfitter was there to pick me up. And of course, you guys were there, because I thought if you weren't, I was going to be in trouble. But you made me give me all that reassurance and showed me, who was going to come pick me up. Christian come pick me up. You showed me a picture of him and everything, so I knew who to look for. And your handout that you provide, and it goes through everything. It shows you the layout of the airport when you come in. This is where you go through. This is part of getting through customs or whatever, passport check and all that. I felt like, for me, just being a somewhat cautious individual, I liked having all that set out right from the start, so I didn't have to worry about how I was going to navigate this. You set it all out in the information that you provided us for the hunt, and that was fabulous.
Okay, good deal. All right, yeah. Fernando, what do you have to say about this?
Oh, the trigger for this is it's COVID, the economic situation. You just find yourself second guessing your dreams and your wishes, and suddenly you find out that hunting in other countries, in your own country, might be even more expensive than coming to Africa. So all the cliches and the taboos of not taking a step is one thing that has been discussed in the podcast and in other channels, in YouTube and Spotify, and it's hard to unleash a little bit of your comfort zone and just go out. This is my first hunt where I come with friends that I know in the internet. So I usually go with my usual clan or hunting buddies or fishing buddies to places, and this was one big step, just going to the other side of the world with people you know electronically. I think it's a new era of that, but somehow we've been listeners and part of a community in the podcast and in your Facebook group and the big game hunting group that you've made. I felt contained, and I felt comfortably enough to take a plane, 17,000 kilometers away from home with you guys. It's been a wonderful week. It's an experience that in North America, it's a completely different experience than North America, where you search for one trophy for 8 days, and here I've been seeing game all day long. I personally shot and hunted more than shot one species per day or more. So that is just incredible. I got to use my rifle every day for the last 8 days. So it is an experience that you cannot describe when you live in North America and you look for a piece of game for 8 days or 10 days, right? Mm-hmm. So people, it's the most important thing of this trip. I found people that I cherish and I consider friends now. Yes, the traveling was frightful. It was scary. Traveling alone and that kind of stuff with a weapon, it was no hassle. I have no problems with the weapons. We got here at the airport. It was so easy to pass the police revision. We came into the farm, and it was all so easy. The farm is so well put up. Congratulations on your farm. This is a dream come true. Basically, because 8 months ago we talked in the phone, and you said, don't be scared. This is how it's going to happen. It was clear. It was comfortable to take. So thank you very much, John, and the big game hunting adventures you're putting up makes it really easy in every way, economically, logistically. It's certain. It gives you certainty.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff you guys just said there. And, all three of us are similar in some ways, but we kind of come from very different backgrounds and made it over here in very different ways, too. You guys seem to be pretty experienced hunters, but primarily in your own home countries. Yes. Fernando, deer and birds in Mexico. And, so Michael, you found all kinds of stuff in Canada, but Canada, right? You said you never hunted outside of Canada before, and then we all went different ways to get here, right? Michael, you went through Amsterdam on KLM. I went through Atlanta on Delta. Fernando, you went through Istanbul on Turkish Airlines. Fernando brought his own rifle. He brought a Blaser R93 with 375 and 300 Win Mag barrels. Worked great. Michael, you didn't bring a rifle. You used a camp rifle here, and so it was just kind of like a mix of everything with all that stuff going on, but it all ended up working out really well. And so it just goes to show there's different ways you can do this. Michael, your travel is a little bit less complicated. You only brought a carry-on bag on the airplane since you didn't bring a gun or anything like that. And the nice thing about hunting in Africa is you do laundry while you're here, so you don't need to bring a ton of clothes with you. And the temperatures have been not real hot, but not real cold, so you don't need a ton of warm clothes or anything, and you're not getting super wet or anything every day out there. But it's also just different than any of the other hunting I'll bet you guys have done before. So I'll turn it over to Christian next, and we'll go around the horn. Let's each talk about maybe a highlight of the hunt that you experienced that was particularly noteworthy in one way or another, right? So Christian, you and Michael hunted primarily together. Kobus and Fernando hunted primarily together, and then Johan and I did together as well. But there was also quite a bit of overlap with stuff too. Johan, I know you were with Michael when he got his buffalo, and I actually happened to be with Fernando and Michael when you guys shot your first African animals there at the beginning of your guys' hunt. And honestly, that was probably the favorite part of my hunt. C.J. McElroy, who was the first head of SCI, once said that the only people he's jealous of are people on their first hunt in Africa. And that is kind of how I feel. And it is really cool to be with you on that first day. And you're just wide-eyed, like, wow, I've waited for this hunt for so long, and it took me so long to get here, and now I'm finally here, and now I'm hunting, and now I'm seeing zebra and wildebeest and impala and all that stuff. And like Fernando said, he pulled the trigger just about every day on something. But even when that wasn't the case, you're seeing stuff, right? You're seeing females, or you're seeing another species that you may not be interested in hunting, or you're seeing a young bull that a young kudu bull or something that you're not going to shoot. So there's just always stuff to see. And it's very different from hunting in North America, where you may see more animals in one day of hunting here than you do in a whole season of deer hunting in North America. Even if you don't shoot anything, it's just cool to see all of that stuff. And I've hunted Africa. This is my 5th trip over, and so there was a lot of things that I had already taken that I wasn't going to take on this trip. But for instance, I had opportunities to shoot warthog and zebra and eland and kudu and all sorts of stuff like that. That had I never taken any of those animals before, I got good shots on nice ones there. So even though my hunt was kind of slow in many respects, it was still very interesting in others, and you get to see a lot of cool interactions with wildlife in that respect. And so, Christian, I'll turn it over to you. What was the highlight of your hunt?
Thank you, John. I would say the highlight of my hunt actually happened this morning, after we've been struggling this whole week to get a proper big kudu bull. And this morning we found one. You made an excellent shot on it.
Tell them about the shot.
The first shot actually went right in the engine room, but the kudu was in the thorn bush. So I just told Michael, put another one in him, pull his handbrake up, otherwise we're going to have to go and get this thing way in the thorn bush. And he made a second shot, dropped the kudu in his tracks, and Michael's face just lit up like a Christmas tree. And I could see how happy he was finally getting that big kudu bull. I would say that's probably the highlight of my trip.
So Michael and I talked, and he had said that the thing that he wanted most on this hunt was his buffalo, and he ended up getting it. And he got a very nice buffalo. And then the number 2 thing that he wanted was the kudu. And like Christian said, it was just a struggle for several days to get it. And last night we were talking, and he and I were both feeling kind of down because we were having some frustration and whatnot. And today it's going to be the last full day there. Let's kind of give it all we got with it, and hopefully things will work out. So I was so happy to hear this morning that he got the kudu. And then, like Krishna said, with me, it was in the thorn bush. I'll post pictures of this, but the thorns are, depending on how tall you are, either shoulder or head height in many areas, and it's thorns, right? It's nasty going in there and going through there, but that's where a lot of the animals here like to live because it's a nice, safe place to be. So we got a good shot at one this morning. It was like 7:15 when you shot it, like really early, right? Yeah. And so it was off to a good start this morning with that. So that's a good story, Christian. Johan, what about you?
Thanks, John. So it's I think there's multiple highlights to any hunt like this. One of the big highlights for me was seeing you again after all these years. We've been friends for very long. It's been far too long since you visited us. That was definitely the big one for me. And then I think there was highlights with everybody. We got that wildebeest, and that's a story on its own once again. Your buffalo, Michael, I think that's a few chapters of stories on its own. Fernando, every day's a highlight of you in camp, so it's there's multiple highlights. Like I told you, I haven't physically hunted something for myself in a very long time. After a while, if you do this for a living, you actually find great enjoyment in making another guy happy or getting him to make his dream come true. If somebody can take a very good quality kudu bull and he's worked really hard for it, when you can make that happen for a guy, that's a reward in its own. So for me, multiple highlights. Like I said, the buffalo was an experience to cherish. The wildebeest, I wasn't with you for your impala. Fernando, like I say, man, I don't know where to start or where to end with you, but it's an ongoing thing. I think all in all, the entire thing is a highlight. Everybody was successful. Guys came, they got stuff they didn't think they would get. They did very well. We had a discussion on the back of a truck as well. It's all about ups and downs. It's got great ups, it's got great downs. So that's what makes you a hunter. That's what Africa gives to you, So from my perspective, the entire trip, we spoke a while ago to how we were going to set this up. And it led up to the entire trip was a highlight, if you can put it that way.
I think the highlight of this trip is to find again places where you can actually hunt how we hunted when we were kids, like not in enclosed areas, and you just have to settle for a blind or stuff like that. You can actually spot and stalk and track the animal that you are looking for, and that is maybe one of the biggest things of coming here. I remember hunting as a kid and then a young adult in Mexico with a tracker, and you would track a mule deer for 3 days, no matter what the fences were or the terrain was. And here you can find actually that experience of tracking your animal and looking for it, and really going for one trophy that you're looking for, and you can actually work for it for 3 days. But that experience of hunting that really puts you into the environment, and the experience of being there as a hunter and not just a shooter, it's a completely different thing. So I think my highlight comes very much on the people I met here. It's the PH staff, the tracking staff, the cooking staff, the cleaning staff is absolutely marvelous. You have a beautiful operation here, and that makes everything go smooth while you hunt hard. So that's maybe the biggest highlight. I have the idea of talking about these highlights with my buffalo, which menaced us and charged us, and actually he hunted me instead of we took the right shot, and the PH was there with me, backing me up, so I felt really confident. That encounter, very personal encounter, I shot my buffalo at 13 yards. So that was something that taught me temperance, you say in English? I'm very grateful of this trip. I'm living things that I never thought I'd live. Even when you thought about hunting Africa, you read about it, you saw podcasts on YouTubes. It's never the same to come here and really live it yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, the highlight for me would be the Cape Buffalo, and particularly that kudu. The Cape Buffalo was the main species that I wanted to hunt. If I picked one species, that was the one. When I came to Africa, I wanted to hopefully leave Africa with the Cape Buffalo, and that was for a couple of reasons. For there is definitely an element of danger and risk with the Cape Buffalo. I don't seek danger or risk, as you can tell. I'm a fairly risk-averse individual, so I thought for myself that would be a particular challenge to be able to cope with that and be able to deal with that, and hoping that everything would go safely, and luckily it did, and it was a wonderful experience. I have a new respect for the tenacity, the sheer will to live that those creatures have, and what it took to get that thing down so it didn't steamroll us. It takes a lot, and a new respect, and just honor to that species. They're amazing animals, and truly a trophy to go after if people are interested in that. And the whole team here made it very safe, very straightforward to accomplish, and they let me do it, right, with guidance, obviously, and I felt it's a tremendous accomplishment. The kudu was something special for me. That was also something that I was hoping to be able to get while I was here. I feel that they are one of the most majestic, beautiful of all the African species to me, and I really wanted to be able to hunt them. And it was filled definitely with lots of ups and lots of downs. Struggled to get a kudu. And it's tough sometimes when you see others aren't struggling to get to those things. And you wonder what's wrong, but that's how it goes, right? And that's how hunting goes, and you have to be able to deal with that. And yeah, so it was getting down to the wire. Today was the last full day that we had, and I kind of had to prepare myself that maybe it wasn't going to happen, and that was okay, and that was okay. I'll save it for another trip. But still really hoping that it would happen, and just how it all came together with Christian and Crevice, and we just, I'll be very honest, it was an emotional experience for me. I don't usually get that way so much hunting. Some people do, and that's wonderful, but it was just, I guess it's just a real burden, and just felt really blessed. And it's sometimes those experiences you have where the most difficult or challenging ones, when you finally get it done, they are the sweetest, and the one that I'll really remember. I'll definitely remember my buffalo, just because of all that happened to get that thing down, as Johan could attest to. And just, I'm glad, again, it all worked out well, and everything was fine there, but just branding respect there. But the kudu, just the effort that we had to put in, and everything to get one. And I mean, like I think you said, like, if you wanted, you had 4 or 5 times you could have harvested a kudu and you weren't even trying for one. And that's okay, and it made the experience that much richer, I think, for me. So that would be the highlight.
So, Johan, can you share with us what you named that area where Michael got his kudu?
Where Michael got his kudu or the buffalo?
I'm sorry, his buffalo.
So yes, John, it's named after a city I spent my youth in, or a good part of my youth in the 1990s. It's now called Little Sarajevo. People who spent time in the 1990s in Sarajevo will definitely know what I'm talking about, but it'll be now Little Sarajevo for you.
And just so we're clear here, Michael made a very good shot on his buffalo, and things went great with it, and it actually didn't go very far at all after you shot it. But it was just an experience that this buffalo did not want to go down easy, and there was a lot that happened that night, and it was quite the experience that those guys there will remember. And all like I said, all in a good way though, because everyone was being responsible, and all the shooting was good, and everyone was using appropriate weapons for it. But Cape buffalo are big, and they are tough. And some of them are tougher than others, and I think this one that was tougher than the average buffalo. And so both of you guys came here wanting buffalo, and both of you want kudu, and both of you went home with great buffalo and great kudu. Like Ernest Hemingway said, everybody wants a kudu, and you guys took kudu that I'm pretty sure are bigger than the kudu that Ernest Hemingway ended up taking on his famous trip here. It just goes to show, though, that this is a very game-rich area. There's a wide variety of species here. There's healthy populations of most of that game here. We are seeing stuff every day, but just because there's a lot of it here, it don't mean that it's easy, man. You run into weird things here sometimes where you may be after kudu and putting stock on a kudu, and then an impala that you didn't see spooks and runs the kudu off or something like that. Sometimes you run into problems because there's just too much game here. Not necessarily too much game. I don't know if you can have too much game, but there's so much game. And there's unexpected complications with that, and especially if you're hunting something out of a herd, especially with wildebeest or impala. You're going after a ram, and he may have 20, 30 females there with him. That's all sets of eyes and ears and noses that you gotta fool. And so it's I'm sure it was probably certain aspects of this hunt were more challenging than you thought they were going into it. But it speaks to, one, your guys' dedication to just kind of keep plugging away after it, even after you have some adversity there, and get it done. And it seems like you guys came home, or are going to be going home, with pretty much what you came over here wanting to get, and with some real nice stuff to boot with it all, and had a good time overall, and ended up taking some other animals that maybe not necessarily would have hunted, and maybe not necessarily even knew about before you came over here, like Inyala, right? Yeah. This place has fantastic Inyala hunting, and Inyala in particular are a species that seems like a lot of guys, at least on that first hunt, are not really interested in hunting them. And oftentimes it's maybe because they've never heard of them before, but once they go over and they see them, and they're like, oh, wow, that's a really beautiful animal, maybe I'd like to hunt that. Maybe they take them on that first hunt like you guys did, maybe they get them on a subsequent hunt. But that's just kind of the part of the allure of hunting in Africa, and one of the good things about it. There's all kinds of stuff that lives in this area. So even even aside from the things that we hunt, we saw other animals out there too. I saw black mamba today. That was an experience in and of itself. I'll talk about that later. There's brown hyena here, all kinds of birds here, other little reptiles. There's turtles, there's lizards, and Africa's just kind of its own unique place that is very, very different from Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And that's a whole other experience here that I hope you guys enjoyed as well. So I'll pass it around one last time, and we'll let everyone say just a concluding thought about the hunt. Anything that you'd like to say to close us out?
Thank you, John. The only thing that I can actually say is thank you guys for coming and hunting with us, and we're really looking forward in seeing you guys again in the future. As you know, there's still a lot more huntable species that we've got. And we're hoping on seeing you guys again and getting you a few of those other animals in the future.
Yes, to conclude, thanks for coming, guys. I mean, I think it was a very successful hunt. You got what you came for and then some, as John would say. The biggest thing for me is that you enjoy it. There's no point in traveling across the world because that's where you came from, and you don't have, it's not an enjoyable thing. For us, the hunt should be fun. You should have the time of your life. This is what you come here for. So I think, in conclusion, like we said, hunting has its ups, it's got its downs, but there's more ups than downs, and there's a certain feeling of satisfaction at the end of a safari that you get. You've done things that you've wanted to do your entire life. You've accomplished these things, and it's an honor to bring guys that opportunity. So in conclusion, I'm glad everybody had a good time. Thanks for coming. Diverse people, very interesting hunt. I think everybody had great fun. And there's definitely stories to be told for years and years going forward.
Well, definitely, things happen so fast once you're here that you have to take a little bit in the afternoon or at night to write it up and to remind yourself how you felt and what you did. But I would add that safari hunting starts when you imagine it, and you have the opportunity to enjoy the preparation, the dream, the struggle to get better plane tickets and better opportunities, and you start planning you start actually researching what are the species that you have there, which one do you like. I fell in love with a Nyala 4 months ago, and it became one of the priorities of this trip to see one in the flesh. There is a big preparation process that ends up with your actual trip. So I would say please enjoy that part of the trip, because the trip starts when you start planning it and you book. You decide to go, so you're going to start saving money and saving time and getting your stuff ready. Do I need this kind of pants or this kind of shirt? That becomes the shopping for that becomes part of the trip. I mean, you need to enjoy it. It is not as different as going to any guided hunt back home. It is actually easier in some ways. You have laundry, you have a great lodge that these people have prepared with a lot of love. And so it's actually easier than some of the places that we hunt back home. So maybe the flight is a little frightening, but other than that, you will find yourself in a hunting community. And hunters, we actually communicate in somehow the same way. So we share values and we share our dream mostly in the same way with different aspects of it. That makes it more interesting when we talk it around the fireplace and we talk about our stories for every day. We stop hunting, we go to the fireplace, and then we go to dinner. So that's a really nice place, a really nice space. So I would encourage everybody to just book it, prepare yourself, and do it, because you don't know if next year you will be healthy or wealthy or whatever to do it. So just set the date and plan for it. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think the only real advice I would give is to echo what advice was given me and what Fernando just mentioned is, if you're at all interested in coming to hunt in Africa, don't put it off. If you can, just do it. Just book it. You will not regret it. It's not as difficult as you think it could be. It's not as scary as you might think it would be. This was very easy, and thanks to John, I really felt comfortable doing it, and just a wonderful, wonderful outfit. Just everything. Facility is amazing. The hunting is amazing. Again, I will never forget it. I guess the only disappointing thing is you mentioned it. I can never experience another first time to Africa again. Thanks for that, John. That just weighed on me now. Like, oh, darn, yeah. But no, I'll treasure this forever and try to do it so I can have memories and things like this, so I can think back about this. And as Fernando said, writing it down, journaling a bit about it. That would be just remembering the emotions and feelings of the place, and it's going to really be sad to leave. Tomorrow I'm really going to miss Africa, and there's going to be a longing to come back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I just do it. If you're interested in going, just book it. It's an amazing, amazing experience. You will not regret it.
So like Fernando said earlier, it's an interesting experience going to hunt with people from the internet that you've never met before. And when I was deciding about a year ago if I was going to do these two podcast hunts, right? I did the crane hunt this past January, and then we did this one. One of the questions I was having in my mind was like, gosh, I'm going to get these guys, hopefully they want to come and do these hunts, and I'll be in camp with them. And like, gosh, I hope they're cool guys, right? I'm going to be spending a week on the crane, or weekend on the crane hunt, and then over a week on this one. And you go out with the wrong hunting buddy, and it's just miserable sometimes, right? Sometimes you get paired up with a guy that's you just don't mesh or whatever, or he's just a jerk, and it's no fun. And so I did it because I figured that the people that would go on the hunt were quality people that I'd get along with and everything, and it worked out great on the crane hunt. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be spending 9 days with these guys in Africa. I hope that's the same case there. And it turns out it was. I had a group of just quality individuals on both hunts that came from very diverse backgrounds. Speaking just to the Africa hunt now, we had people, including the South Africans, we had people from 4 different countries in camp here from a wide variety of different backgrounds. We all do different things for a living and came from different places to get to where we are now and have different experiences kind of along the way. But we were all bonded by this shared love of hunting, and that is very interesting how you can pull such a different group of people together that speak a number of different languages. I mean, how many different languages people speak in camp? 5 or 6, 5, 6 languages, all told here together. Yeah. And, but everyone is here, because we enjoy hunting, and it's something that we just gain a lot of joy from. And you gained joy from being around people with those same experiences. And so, Michael and Fernando, thank you so much for joining me on this hunt. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, hunting with you, and helping you achieve those dreams that you had wanted to do for so long. Johan, Christian, Kobus, Philemon, Saki, Yossi, everyone here that helped put on the hunt, thank you so much for hosting us. It was a wonderful experience. The days were just absolutely jam-packed. Be up at 5:30, breakfast at 6, out by 6:30, hunt all morning, come back for a short lunch break, come back, out, hunt all afternoon, back, dinner, sit around, talk around the campfire a little bit, then I can't keep my eyes open anymore, go take a shower, go to bed, do it again the next day. And it is just action-packed all day long when we're here. So there's never a dull moment in Africa. Lots of interesting stories to share around the campfire, lots of interesting things to do and see during the day. And so, all's well that ends well. We filled up that skinning shed with animals between the three of us, and those skinners were busy taking care of all the fruits of this hunt. And there was a lot of good memories made, a lot of interesting experiences there. And like I said, just even some of the things that went along with it that didn't involve necessarily shooting an animal, like our close encounter with the black mamba today. That is definitely something I'm always going to remember, and that'll always be a good story to tell, just like that. And just seeing all the interesting things, seeing giraffe. Oh, there was a giraffe walking by out in the bush. And of course, the hunting here was just absolutely fantastic as well. I had a slow and frustrating hunt compared to these guys, but even I still had a great hunt. And the little bit of frustration associated with my hunt was more than made up for by the joy in seeing you guys have such a good time and enjoy Africa for that first time. So I'm so glad you guys got to join me, and I'm glad that I got to be a part of that. And I'll just wrap up to recap what you guys just said. There's nothing more expensive than regret. I know a lot of people that always wanted to go and do something. In many cases, it's hunting Africa, and for whatever reason, they never went. They didn't have the time, they didn't have the money, or by the time they had those things, their health had failed them, and they always wished that they did it. So make a point of just doing it and figure out how to pay for it, and you will enjoy it. And that memory of that 1 or 2 weeks that you spend over there, you'll have the rest of your life. And when the day comes that you are old and sick and you're not able to hunt anymore, at least you'll be able to remember, man, I had that really good hunt that I'm so glad that I did that when I had the time to do it. So everyone, thank you for joining me on this podcast. Thank you for joining me on this hunt. It was a wonderful experience. We'll wrap things up tonight, maybe do a little bit of hunting tomorrow, and we'll see how things go for us, and then it's back home. So thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. I will be doing a little bit more detailed recap of this hunt, just me, after I get back home and get a chance to settle in and whatnot. So be on the lookout for that. It is coming. Until then, stay safe and take care. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And like I mentioned earlier, I am working on a more detailed recap of that hunt and that video that I mentioned that you will receive in the next couple of weeks. More details to follow, but let's just say that we kept these skinners busy while we were over there. And that was a crazy busy week. Holy cow, was that a fun trip, but my goodness, did it go by fast. Right now, I'm in that semi-depressed state where I'm back home, but really missing Africa and wanting to get back over there as soon as possible. I have not made firm plans for additional podcast hunting opportunities yet. I really want to do this again, though. Maybe we'll do another crane hunt or something similar, and I would also like to do another hunt in Africa. Both hunts turned out great, and I enjoyed spending so much time with everyone who joined me on both hunts. I really like hanging out with the guys who joined me, and I feel like most of those guys also really liked each other, and we got along really well as a group. Give me some time to recover from this hunt. I'll think some things over, and we'll see about making plans for another hunt in the future. Maybe we'll go back in 2024. Maybe it'll need to wait to 2025. We'll just have to see. More to follow. Now, if this does sound appealing to you and you want first crack at joining me on one of those hunts, if and when I decide to organize another one in the future, make sure you're supporting me on Patreon. I will announce the hunting opportunity there first, and those who support me on Patreon will also have priority on available spots. And plus, you'll also get access to the bonus material I put out for all my Patreon supporters, like the video of this hunt that I'll release on Patreon first, and all the ballistic gel videos I produce right before this hunt. Go to patreon.com/biggamehunter or click the link in the show notes to support me on Patreon. Now, you also don't have to wait until 2024 or 2025 to go to Africa if you don't want to. Like we said a couple times on the podcast, don't wait to hunt in Africa if that's something you really want to do. There's no guarantee you will have the time, the money, or even the physical ability to hunt if you put things off for a year or two. I've seen it happen way too many times, and it's very sad when that happens to guys. Sometimes life intervenes and we have to deal with circumstances beyond our control. So the only advice that I can give you is not to wait and to do it now, if at all possible, whatever that thing is that you're dreaming about. But if Africa is the thing that you're dreaming about and you want to do this sooner rather than later, as I record this, we have 2 slots remaining for hunts in August and September of 2023. I am also offering reduced pricing on those openings as well. I won't be there to hunt with you if you go over in August or September of this year, but you will be hunting with Kobus, Christian, and or Johan in that exact same area where Michael, Fernando, and I all hunted. And even though I won't be there in person, just like I did for Mike and Fernando, I will be available to you in advance of the hunt to help answer all of your questions, sort out logistics, put your mind at ease, and just do everything I can to set you up for success for a really fun trip. You can hunt plains game, you can hunt buffalo, you can hunt both if you'd like. Email me, john@thebiggamehuntingblog.com, or visit bestsafarihunt.com to learn a little bit more about these opportunities if you're interested in taking advantage of them. Make sure that you tell me you're a podcast listener when you contact me, and I will give you a bonus above and beyond the regular discount if you book for 2023. Okay, that will do it for this episode. Be on the lookout for my next episode where I will recap this hunt in more detail. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and I can help. Thank you for listening, and I will see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to thebiggamehuntingblog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.